Hello, how you doing? It's Phil Thatch, and today I'm going to be talking about a new lens from Viltrox. They're coming out with a 56mm f1.7, and this lens is for APS-C cameras. I have the Nikon Z mount version, but I believe it's also going to be available for Fuji X. I'm not sure if they're going to come out with it for Sony E or not, but definitely Nikon Z and Fuji X. And it's only going to be priced at $139, which is ridiculously inexpensive. Now, Viltrox already makes a 56mm fast prime lens, and I have that lens. This is the 56mm f1.4. This lens costs about $300, and even at $300, it's a bargain. It's a really nice portrait lens for APS-C cameras, but for some folks, $300 is a lot of money. As a matter of fact, for most folks, $300 is a lot of money. So having an alternative that's only $139 is really nice. This 1.4 version for $300, it's nice. It makes great photos. I made a video about it. I'll put a link to it at the end of the video and maybe even one up in the corner. It has an aperture ring, which I couldn't care less about an aperture ring. I always put the aperture ring on these lenses, always put it all the way in A, and then I control the aperture from my camera body. This is the new 1.7. I actually have it on my Z50. Let me take it off. And it is light as a feather, much, much smaller than the 1.4 version, and much lighter. It's also made completely of plastic, where the 1.4 version is metal. This one is all plastic, but it still has a nice quality feel to it. And then, you know, most manufacturers these days make their lenses out of plastic. For example, this is the 50mm 1.8 from Canon. For full frame, it's completely plastic. And this is an L series lens from Canon, which is their premium line, and it's completely made of plastic. So the fact that this lens is made of plastic is really not a big deal. The important part is the mount, and it is metal. Some lenses that are very inexpensive will have a plastic mount, but this one has a nice metal mount, so that is great. Also, near the mounting area, you'll see a USB-C port for easy updates if necessary in the future, so that's nice. This lens has no aperture ring, so you control the aperture from inside the camera, and like I mentioned earlier, that's no big loss to me at all. I always control my aperture from inside the camera, so the fact that it doesn't have that aperture ring doesn't bother me at all. It has a cute little lens hood, which is reversible, and it's easy to install. Just pops right on there. It has a 52mm filter thread, and a nice pinch style lens cap comes with it, so that's great. The lens has 9 aperture blades. A lot of times lenses in this price range are not autofocus, and they don't send exif data to your camera, but this is a full autofocus lens. It does send exif data. You're not having any compromises with this lens. With an aperture of f1.7, it's still a very fast lens, and it should give you great separation between your subject and your background if you shoot it wide open or nearly wide open. So that's great. It's not as fast as the 1.4, but it's nearly as fast as the 1.4. So let's put it on the Z50 and see what it looks like on a camera. Clicks right on, fits nicely. There's no looseness, no wobble, and what a cute little package, and powerful, because this has the equivalent focal length of an 85mm, and 85mm on full frame is kind of like the official portrait lens focal length. So this 56 gives you that field of view, and the fast 1.7 aperture should give you nice blurred out backgrounds. So I'm going to take this out and do some photography with it of various things, and we'll see how it does. Okay, this is a photo that I made as soon as the lens came in. I got home from work and the lens was on my front porch, and I made this photograph of Heather. She's at her desk and she's in a Zoom meeting. I don't know if this is for work or for school. They're kind of the same thing, it seems like sometimes. But here it is, wide open at 1.7, and I think every shot in this video is going to be wide open at 1.7. And it's, of course, 56mm and 1/160th. And it's nice and sharp on her eye. The eye detect autofocus did work perfectly on the Z50 in this lens. But what's really important about this lens is the compression, and just look how nicely out of focus the background is. So that gives you lots of subject separation. And of course, her desk is right by this wall. This may be a foot or two behind her, but you can see how nicely out of focus it is. And she is nice and sharp on her eye. All of these photos are completely unedited RAW shots. As you can see, this is an NEF file and nothing's been done to it. This is kind of a side lit, backlit shot of Heather wide open. This is 1/2500th of a second because you need a lot of shutter speed in broad daylight at f1.7, but it did turn out nice. Heather's squinting a little bit because of the bright light, but she's nice and sharp, and you can see the amazing bokeh in the background. 56mm on APS-C and f1.7 makes for a nice portrait lens for sure. Here's another shot of Heather on the back porch, a little different angle, and same thing, nice and sharp on the eye, lots of separation in the background. Really did a nice job, the lens did. I kind of overexposed it right here a little bit, but that's on me, not the lens. Here's a picture of our cat Ruby in the kitchen, and it is nice and sharp on the eye. So the animal eye detect on the Z50 also works well with this lens. I had my shutter speed a little bit too high, so I ended up at 3200 ISO for this shot. So there is a lot of noise in it. I could have shot this a lot slower on the shutter speed, but you can see the kitchen in the background is completely out of focus, so you have great separation between the cat and the background. Here's another shot of Ruby, kind of over near Heather's desk, if you recognize the background from that shot. Same thing, very sharp on the eye and completely out of focus in the background. You can see right here on Ruby's collar, there is a little bit of chromatic aberration on really high contrast areas that are out of focus. It's not bad. I wouldn't worry about that at all. As a matter of fact, I bet if I was just showing you this picture like this, you would not have even noticed that. But at 100%, you can see it if you are really being nitpicky. Here's Heather and Ruby in the kitchen. Same thing, nice and sharp on the eye, although their eyes are not on the same plane. I think the focus landed on the cat instead of the Heather. I may have still had it in animal, but the background is nice and soft and they look cute. It got cloudy and I said, Heather, we got to go back outside again. It's cloudy. So this is what it looks like in a little bit better light with a natural softbox. Perfectly sharp on her eyes. Her hair looks nice, and look at the separation between Heather and the background. This is what we're looking for in an 85 or 85mm equivalent portrait lens. Another shot of Heather with a little bit different facial angle. And on this one with one eye closer than the other one, in this situation, you focus on the closer eye because it's the one that's important. And at 1.7, the further away eye might be a little bit out of focus, but that is completely acceptable in portrait photography. And once again, look at that background. Oh, Heather grabbed the camera and took a picture of me. That lens even makes me look good. And here's another shot of Heather. This is looking off the other side. This is a background that I often use for bird photography. I thought this turned out real nice. Heather's eyes are beautiful and nice and sharp. And the background, and this background is much closer than the other backgrounds. And even with the background much closer, it's still beautifully rendered out of focus and smooth bokeh, even though that's a really rough background. Next, I decided to see how the lens did with video, and I leaned into the camera and it did capture my face. As I moved back, it kind of lost me a little bit. I'm going to put that blame more on the Nikon than this lens. But look at that beautiful background and the separation between me and the background, even in video mode. And you know, this lens doesn't have a really short minimum focus distance, but you can fill the frame with your face and still be in focus. So it's not really all that bad. I enjoyed using the Viltrox 56mm f1.7 today. I can't imagine a better portrait lens for use with your Nikon Z APS-C camera, like your ZFC or your Z50 or your Z30 and any Z mount AFC cameras in the future. I just can't imagine a better portrait lens in this price range. It's pretty amazing. It really could be a $250 lens and still be well worth it. For $300, I'd probably rather use the Viltrox 56 1.4, but for this price, this is the way to go. And I think you should definitely try it if you're looking for a portrait lens on a really tight budget. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, reach down, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see some more content like this and wildlife and just all sorts of stuff, subscribe and hit the bell. As always, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.